Happy summertime, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Dallas Cowboys Overtime here on StarTelegram.com, brought to you by the great people of Window Nation. I'm Mac Engel, Fort Worth Star Telegram columnist. That's Clarence E. Hill Jr., Mr. Dallas Cowboys know-it-all and defender of all things University of Texas. Clarence, how are you? Good or bad?
I'm good.
Emotional?
I'm just trying to recover. It's been a long weekend. We finally got it done. I finally graduated from Trinity High School. I'm graduated from high school. I'm graduated from youth sports. I'm hopefully I'm going to be a free man. I know it's a pipe dream. I know I'm fantasizing because I still got daughters, and my youngest is going to college, going to Rice. I'm going to be a cheerleader, but the graduation twosome of Howard on May 14th and Trinity High School on May 28th is over. My 2 weeks of family and and spending money in my pockets empty. When is payday again? I need to get paid.
I don't know. Hopefully today. When did she start at Rice?
She starts at Rice. I think she has to go early. She has to go early on August 5th to get ready for cheerleading school. Yeah, all of that stuff. So.
Wow. Well, good for her. Congratulations again. That's great. She's going to Rice. I don't. When you said August, I'm thinking of August in Houston.
Oh yeah, I've told her because she's done nothing but indoor sports, and her first game is in Austin on September 2nd. And
is she going to cheer at Austin?
Well, she cheers the football team. I mean, that's
great.
So she has to cheer outside. In the heat, and it's one thing to cheer in Austin, Houston humidity. She has no idea what cheerleading outside and the outside sports are going to be like. So it's going to be interesting.
Well, it'll be interesting. I'll be really interested to see what the Rice band. I think they're called the Mob, aren't they? The Mob.
They're great.
I'll be interested to see what the Rice band comes up with for their halftime performance in Austin. I could potentially see an SEC reference, maybe a TCU reference. They'll be creative, so that'll be the only thing worth watching, along with your daughter on the sideline, because the game will be a blowout.
There you go. That's what it is. But yeah, so we're graduation season is over. Now it's hopefully taking time off from these Cowboys and gearing up for training camp and certainly the start of the school year, and so that's where we are.
All right. Well, speaking of Dallas Cowboys, let's get right into it. Dallas Cowboys OTAs and minicamp are in full swing. Whatever you can. I don't know how you can really say it's full swing anymore because the players are allowed to do so very little. But one thing that's happened here in the last week, and you put it out on Twitter, and I'd seen it, was some ranking had all 32 NFL coaches. And you wisely said, we need to stop the Mike McCarthy slander because this thing had this poll. It's a ranking. It's a list. Everybody falls for lists. I love them. We all do. But it had Mike McCarthy coming in at 21st. There are 32 coaches in the NFL. Are you going to tell me, Clarence, that there are 20 coaches in the NFL who are better than Mike McCarthy?
I mean, it's BS. It's horse manure. What can we say here? I mean, it's what you want. It's silly season, Mike McCarthy is the 20th all-time winningest coach in NFL history. That's among all coaches. 20th all-time in wins. Only 8 of those coaches who have more wins than him have a better winning percentage. He has a Super Bowl title. He's led the Cowboys to back-to-back 12-win seasons, for the first time, since the 90s. No other coach has won more games the past 2 regular seasons than Mike McCarthy and the Cowboys, except Andy Reid and the Chiefs. And the list starts out fine with Andy Reid number 1 and Bill Belichick number 2. And you can debate about that. Mike Thomas, number 3, you can debate about that, whether he should be the high, but certainly has the history. But Sean Payton comes in at 4, who didn't even coach last year, who has less wins than Mike McCarthy and the same amount of Super Bowl victories. And certainly we all love Sean Payton, think he's a football guru and master and, all of that stuff. But again, he has the same amount of titles as Mike McCarthy and less wins over his career. Nick Sanders.
I want to. The McCarthy Payton thing bugs me because they're the same guy.
Same guy. Same
guy. They both had the benefit of a Hall of Fame quarterback for their respective teams in New Orleans and then in Green Bay for a long, long time. And it's weird because Payton is commended the job he did with Drew Brees and the Saints. Won one Super Bowl, and for some reason, McCarthy is punished for his resume with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. And in my mind, I don't know. I think the fact that Seattle gave away Russell Wilson to Denver, some things that always stunk about that trade to me. I think Sean Payton is going to have a much harder time in Denver than Mike McCarthy has here in Dallas for a variety of reasons. But, there was a while there, and you could speak to this. I contested that there wasn't that much difference between Jason Garrett and Mike McCarthy. And obviously Mike has done very well here, and Jason did pretty well here. But when you compare those two guys, and you covered the tenures of both guys, what's the big difference between those two guys?
Jason Garrett and Mike McCarthy?
Yes. Yes, sir. Garrett McCarthy.
Oh, I mean, the thing with Garrett is I just don't. Obviously, he knew the game, but I just think he was too robotic at times, and I think that you just talk to the players and they get into Mike McCarthy. I mean, and again, at the end of the day, this is the Cowboys. Nothing matters if you don't win the playoffs. Everybody's the same guy if you don't win the playoffs. And certainly Jason got them there, but there was too many ups and downs. I mean, I think that's why the back-to-back 12 wins matters, because Jason never got the back-to-back. It was always good one season, bad one season. Yeah. Good one season, bad one season. And really, the fact that he survived those 8-8 seasons when they lost the final game to get to the playoffs, he lasted long as he did because of his history with Jerry Jones and those 90s Cowboys, because most coaches would have been gone well before then. But so, the consistency, Mike McCarthy talked about it. He talked about it last year, that the more you're in the playoffs, the more comfortable you get there, the better chance you have to break through. And, getting there third year in a row would be certainly a hallmark for this team if they do that this year. And it would give them, again, a better chance to break through in the playoffs because you're more comfortable. You get there. You got to keep getting there. You can't go up and down, which is what they were with Jason Garrett. But interesting, I just need to go back just down the list before we move on, because Nick Sirianni is fifth. Yes, he took him to the Super Bowl. We only been coaching 2 years, and that's fine. Kyle Shanahan is 6. We love Kyle Shanahan. Sean McVay, another genius. Love him. But thing goes off the rails here. You got Brian Daboll at number 8. He's coached 1 year.
No, you can't.
He has a 9-7-1 record. He's 8th. Again, McCarthy is 21st. Brian Daboll, 1 year is 8. Okay. Pete Carroll is 9. Doug Peterson is 10. We can debate about that. He got fired, in Philadelphia.
But he won a Super Bowl. Pete Carroll should be way higher. The top of that list, and I think there's certain lists, most of these things you would sit there and there's not that much difference between 1 and 1A and 1. Tomlin is certainly up there. He's done a phenomenal job for a long, long time. Belichick should be number 1. I mean, give me a break. Andy Reid, all these coaches they're great if they have a great quarterback. And, Mike Tomlin had Ben Roethlisberger. But the thing that Mike should be top 5, maybe 5th or 6th.
Well, yeah, he should be.
Pete Carroll went to the playoffs. Geno Smith. And that they should, but I look at some of these guys. When I saw that list, I'm like, are you kidding me?
Mike McDaniel, 1 season, 9-8. He's at 14. Okay. Dan Campbell, 2 seasons, 17, 28, and 1. He's at 16. Okay. They're above Mike McCarthy. Arthur Smith, Atlanta, 14 and 20. He's at 18. Okay. Ron Rivera, who has not won a Super Bowl, certainly took Carolina Super Bowl, and has done nothing in Washington. Is 19th. He's above McCarthy. It's just ridiculous.
Who came up with this list?
It's Ross Tucker and the 33rd team.
Really?
Yes.
Well, I would respect Ross a lot. I'm surprised that I think this is just punishment for being associated with Aaron Rodgers and for not winning more Super Bowls. Because, Tony Dungy used to hear the same thing with Peyton Manning. And Tony Dungy did a great job in Tampa, took over a terrible franchise and got him to the NFC title game. John Gruden walks in the next year, they win the Super Bowl. And then Tony and Peyton did a great job. But they win a Super Bowl. They lost. No, he didn't. He retired before Jim Caldwell took over. You could make a real solid argument. The Colts should have won 1 or 2 more with Dungy and Peyton Manning together, but they didn't. But I do think sometimes we We get caught up in punishing these guys for being associated with great players. That's how you're a great coach, is that you coach great players. You get out of their way, or you knock away some of the fine edges, whatever you want to call it. But Belichick's great. Mike McCarthy's top 10. Where you want to put him 5 through 10, okay, that's the debate. 21st is ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. It's down. It's silly. I'm sorry.
All right, let's move on. Dallas Cowboys minicamp, OTAs, et cetera, are continuing on late May, early June. Clarence, we talked about this last week. And one change that we've seen really in the last 10 to 15 seasons is that these off seasons by NFL teams pretty much per the mandate of the National Football League Players Association is that these teams and these players specifically in these off seasons can't really do that much. I mean, God, these guys are in great shape year round. They basically take about 2 weeks off after the season. Then they're back into the gym. Obviously the Cowboys made some pretty big offseason additions. Brandon Cooks is a big one. But Clarence, what can we really learn? What can you really learn in OTAs and in minicamp here in May and into June?
The only thing you really learn, again, this is an Engel family issue, okay? Because this whole Camp Cupcake thing, you guys besmirched my buddy Wade Phillips with this Camp Cupcake thing.
That was not me, but I do agree with it.
That's the trend of the league. That's what the league, everything is, no one does that. It was cute. It was wrong. You guys did wrong.
No, okay? No, he was right.
You did way wrong. Anyway, but everything is cupcakes. I go back to even before that when we called OTAs and minicamp the Underwear Olympics. It's worse than flag football right now. It's worse than touch football.
Is it worse than 7-on-7?
I mean, it is 7-on-7. My point. If you ever been to a real flag football or touch football league, they get physical.
Way more than minicamp.
Yes, they can't even contest past balls in the air. Quarterbacks can't contest those balls in the air. So you watch that complete pass. And last week he was 8-8, took him right down the field, 2-minute drill. They cannot make plays on the ball. So the ball should not touch the ground. Okay,
ever.
It should not touch the ground. So what you learn is how they're using people, the positions they put them in. It's interesting. The groupings and stuff like that, but you can't learn any football. You're not going to learn anything about the offensive line. You learn today, again, Tyron Smith is playing right tackle. He's done that most of the offseason. You learn the guys they're trying out in left guard and different things like that. You saw that Micah Parsons did most of his drill work with the defensive line and not the linebackers. You see those type of things. But as far as learning anything about their ability to play football, what they can do on the football field, you're not going to get much. No.
Nope. All right, we're gonna learn. We're gonna learn about.
So it's always funny to me because people talk about they stood out, and I was reading all these stories, these sites put out about somebody looked good and OTA. No, they didn't. They didn't.
I do want to share. No, you're 100%.
There were no OTAs standouts.
No, I know. There's always training camp warriors. You got some DB.
That's fine, but at least they're in pads.
Yeah, I know. But it's all this
from last week's OTA practice.
You can stand out in a preseason game, and you might make the team based on that. If you were an undrafted guy or a 6th or 7th round pick, now you can get cut based on those performances. But I mean, we're talking, you're battling for what? That's a good question, Clarence. How many roster spots really are up for grabs right now? And don't tell me quarterbacks are set, running maybe, but I mean, how many
running backs are set? I mean, there's some
pretty close. They got 2 in the bag. You're talking about one spot.
Well, we're talking about 1 or 2 spots because they're looking at a fullback. And that's interesting. Like the undrafted free agent fullback from North Dakota State, he got some run with the veterans, and look like they're going to try to implement the fullback. They go into this West Coast thing, and so here's a guy. They gave him a $200,000 signing. Well, here's a guy. Like I said, the fact that he's out there with the starters or with the veterans. That's what you notice. What he's doing with them, it's just Underwear Olympics. But it's about alignment, how they use the guys. Those are things you can notice in OTAs. But yeah, I mean, you got their questions on how many defensive backs they're going to keep Kelvin Joseph. I mean, they got every position got 1 or 2 spots that are up in there, but it's not like it's a wholesale thing though.
So I want to share. I don't think I've ever shared this story. So the Camp Cupcake thing. What happened when my wife Jennifer was a columnist, and she was also doing a radio show for ESPN Radio in DFW. So she was hosting the show, and she had me on. This was in San Antonio the year after Bill Parcells left. So this has been in 2007. And as you and I both noticed, the training camp was a lot different under Wade than it was under Bill. The temperature of it, just all of it was different. So at the time, Jennifer was taking calls, and a caller says, "This is like Camp Cupcake." And she's like, "Boom, I got a winner." So she went with it, and it just took off. And Wade hated it. Wade was one of the nicest men I ever met in pro sports. And also he was too nice for the job. He hated criticism. It really bothered him because he wanted everybody to be nice to everybody. And God love him. He just wasn't for that. And that really got to him. And you're right. The way the NFL and specifically the PA has changed football practice, all camps look like Cupcake. And when I came out to training camp a couple of years ago and I saw it, I'm like, this is a joke. And it was. But training camp everywhere is a joke. They're all sitting there taking it easy, praying to God nobody gets hurt. And then the real preseason is the first 2 or 3 games of the regular season. And that's when you kind of have an idea of what you've got with your team. Not in August. You got to wait till September. Okay, so we got more to talk about here on Cowboys Overtime. But first, a word from our friends at Window Nation.
Window Nation, the star of window replacement and proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys, can help you fill the house this season with savings. Buy 2 windows, get 2 free, and make no payments and pay no interest until 2025. Fill your house for a customized authentic Dallas Cowboys jersey while supplies last. You could even help fill the Cowboys house and win tickets to a game. Visit windownation.com/Cowboys now for details. Call 866-95-NATION. Window Nation, proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
Thank you very much, Window Nation. Back here on Cowboys Overtime. I'm Mac Engel. That's Clarence E. Hill Jr. Sorry, probably wanted to say that one out. Junior. Hear that. Clarence, big news in the NFL this week because a top flight player was cut. Now, the Arizona Cardinals thought they won the trade NFL market of the decade when they stole wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins from the Houston Texans, which essentially helped get Bill O'Brien fired. Now, there was a reason why they traded him. DeAndre Hopkins is good, but DeAndre Hopkins this offseason basically throws the Arizona Cardinals management and his quarterback under the bus. Cardinals try to trade him. Once all the NFL teams realized that they wanted him off their team, they weren't going to trade anything for him. And now DeAndre Hopkins, maybe one of the top 10 most talented wide receivers in the NFL, is a free agent. Cowboys already have their guys, CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, Michael Gallup. But this DeAndre Hopkins, this guy's a stud. Should they go get him?
Oh, I think they should. I just think it's going to be an arms race, or not an arms race, but it's
cash race.
A cash race. But my point is the NFL has become an arms race. And look at all these teams. They're stockpiling. Look what the Dolphins are doing. And the Eagles have loaded up. They certainly are adding players. The 49ers have loaded up. And then when you got Christian McCaffrey last year, and the problem the Cowboys made last year, and I was screaming then, I was screaming during the season, they took weapons away from Dak and thought they were going to take the next step. They took weapons away. You got to add weapons, You don't take weapons away and think you're going to go further, when Tony Pollard got hurt last year, they had one real weapon that people were scared of, and that was CeeDee Lamb. They had no other weapons that anybody was scared of that they could, give you some offense. And so
Clarence, did you think they made the mistake that some other teams used to make, that they thought this guy's good enough that he can take a bunch of average guys and make them great? Do they understand now he's really, really good, but he can't be expected to do that? You can't just give him you or me at wide receiver and expect to score touchdowns.
No, and the funny thing is, Dak's getting paid what he's getting paid because that's the going market.
That's the market.
But that's the market. It's just like the Eagles quarterback. He's not going to uplift players. He's not Patrick Mahomes. Not putting a rabbit out of his hat. But they added weapons. They gave him weapons. And I think it's crazy because we go back to Tom Brady. Never gave Tom Brady records. they did go try to get Randy Moss. I mean, they did go and try to get him special players. They did play with some
Gronk
receivers and Gronk and all the other stuff. They did go get him weapons, and you can say what you want about Aaron Rodgers, but his best receiving core was that receiving core that he had in the Super Bowl against the Steelers, and they haven't had that type of talent since. And he never went back, And so you take it.
He got damn close, but he never went back.
Close don't count.
No, close don't count. No, you're right.
It doesn't count at all. And so one reason why Tom Brady went to Tampa was because he wanted help. He wanted
players.
He wanted more players. So that's what you're trying to do. And so I don't know if they'll get it done, because I think they should. If Dalvin Cooks gets cut by the Minnesota Vikings, I think he's the guy they should look at, because Mike McCarthy says he wanted to run the ball more. With who? And you got Tony Pollard, but everybody else is a bunch of maybes in the backfield. And Tony Pollard's never consistently carried the ball more than 20 times a game in his career, ever.
The Dalvin Cook thing really is intriguing to me, because he's kind of a guy who can do a little bit of everything. He can catch. He's a dynamic player. And I know he's not going to be the same guy he was 2 or 3 years ago, but there might be some juice left in that tank. The thing that concerns me about DeAndre Hopkins, and I'll get to a question that was asked to us on Twitter here in a second, but the thing that concerns me about DeAndre Hopkins is that 2 teams that need talent have said, we're good, go someplace else. Houston traded him. Everybody wanted Bill O'Brien's head on a plate after they traded away such a talented player. He goes to Arizona. He's pretty good. Clearly, there's something going on with Kyler Murray in Arizona that the team, coaches, players don't like. And now the Cardinals are saying, get this guy out of here. That's a red flag to me.
Now I disagree. I disagree.
Go ahead. Tell me why because I want to hear why you're wrong.
Because of the 2 teams you mentioned. Houston was horribly run by Bill O'Brien and the mess that they had. That was a horrible decision. And the Cardinals, their GM, their coach, they just fired. That whole staff is gone.
No, and you can. That's a compelling argument.
The GM is gone. Okay, who paid all those money, gave those horrible contracts. He gave himself a raise. He gave the head coach a raise. He gave Kyler Murray a raise. That's a horribly run football team. And now the owners in the middle of a fight with another executive and getting sued. That franchise is horrible. That's not about DeAndre Hopkins. That is about those 2 teams to run. And I'm telling you that he will have a market with Buffalo, Kansas City, Baltimore. All the teams are going to be all in on DeAndre Hopkins.
Okay, and you can convince me of that. Bad organizations are bad organizations. The Texans have been really bad. The Cardinals have been bad for decades and decades and decades. Like, they're up in the same conversation as the Washington football team under Dan Snyder.
Consider this. They hired a head coach who never won nothing in college. Got fired from Tech. He got fired at Tech. They hired him because he's gonna take this little quarterback from Oklahoma, because they got this relationship and win with him. He and the quarterback don't even get along now. And they fired
first
him.
of all, no one's going to get along with that quarterback.
That's fine, but
you're right.
I'm talking about the decision making.
I'm
talking about the decision making. Hiring this coach who's never won nothing.
Nope. And he had Patrick Mahomes. He had Baker Mayfield. He had Davis Webb, and he had Patrick Mahomes.
And was going to be an assistant. It was going to be an assistant at USC, and they hired him to be a head coach on other qualified
I could
guys.
rant on this for a month.
Okay.
The reason Kingsbury, he should send a thank you text and a check to Johnny Manziel every day for the rest of his life. He owes everything to Johnny Manziel, everything. And so, he probably interviews well. He's a great-looking guy. People love that. They're enamored with him. They're smitten with it, but they don't want to look at the records and say, wait a minute there, buddy. I'm looking at your resume here. You had Baker Mayfield, who won the Heisman after he left you. You had Davis Webb, who was a 3rd-round draft pick in the NFL. He left to go to Berkeley. Yeah, he didn't win there. And then you had maybe the best quarterback of his era in Patrick Mahomes, and you didn't win. Right. Why am I going to give you a job?
Again, don't put the Arizona dirt on DeAndre Hopkins.
Well, I can't really argue with that, but I'm also saying there's probably something about this guy. Now, he may fit in an adult locker room. He might. But I want to get to this question this guy on Twitter asked, which is, you would know, would Jerry pay DeAndre Hopkins? Could they make him fit for a year?
Oh, they could definitely make it fit for you. They get ready. It depends on what he's getting. If he's going, if he's has a market,
he's going to want money.
If he's going to want money, is what he's going to get. You know, just like OBJ. I think that the Baltimore Ravens were all the ones that were going to pay him $18 million. They gave him $18 million. Cowboys not giving on DeAndre $18 million. If he's up to $18 million, then no, you're not happening.
On this episode of Cowboys Overtime, I called you Clarence E. Hill Jew, not Junior. I actually said Jew. That's terrible. And now you've got the Colts back in Baltimore, even though they left in 1985. I think both you and I need our heads checked.
Yeah, I'm old school.
Okay,
but I think it's something they will be interested in. And actually, when I tweeted about this last week, Brad Sam, the voice of the Cowboys, agreed they need to go get it. So he also agreed with that. So I just think that you can't overlook that and those things. If there's a chance to go get him, go get him. He would like to be here. He's been most of the offseason working out here in Dallas. He told everybody he'd be interested to come to the Cowboys. So, again, it's going to come down to money. It's going to come down to best fit, but it's something the Cowboys should pursue.
Real quick before we get to the last topic here on Cowboys Overtime, Clarence, do you think he'll be signed before July 20th?
Oh, I think so. Before July 20th, for sure. Yeah, I think so. I think in the next couple of weeks. And understand that the Cowboys and a lot of teams like Cowboys get Zeke's money, because he was a June 1st cut, so that they're going to get like $11 million added to their cap after June 1st.
All right, last topic here to talk about on Cowboys Overtime is not Cowboys related, is pathetic related. Last night at the American Airlines Center in the NHL's Western Conference Final, the Dallas Stars put up one of the worst postseason performances in the history of DFW sports. This wasn't Georgia versus TCU in the national championship game, but I would say it's in the discussion. The Stars fell behind the Las Vegas Golden Knights 3-0 in the series. They came back to force a Game 6 by winning consecutive games without Captain Jamie Benn. Ben comes back. The place is going bananas. They are just dying. They cannot wait for this game. Game gets started, and Vegas comes out and pulls a Mike Tyson and just punches them to death. Win the game 6-0. It's season's over. A great year, a great Stanley Cup playoff run by the Stars where they beat Minnesota in an exciting series. It was all fun and exciting. They beat the Kraken. That was good. Really, in my mind, this series, they probably weren't going to win it. They lost it in Game 2 more than they did the rest. But, Clarence, I sat there and I'm like, as I was at the game last night, I'm like, this is one of the worst I've ever seen. And it was the second worst playoff loss in the history of the franchise. They've had some bad ones. They came back from a 3-0 deficit in 2008 in the West Finals against Detroit. It was the same thing. They won back-to-back games, forced to Game 6, get it home, and they get blown out. They fall behind 3-0 in the first period, lose like 4-1. They had a Game 7 against St. Louis in the semifinals in 2016. They force a Game 7. It's very exciting. They get destroyed, lose 6-1. Last night was the worst, 6-0. Clarence, have you ever seen a worse playoff performance by a team in DFW than that one we witnessed last night?
Yeah, I've seen some disappointment with the Cowboys. Sort of like, but they were always in them. You can say whatever you want about the losses to San Francisco, but they were competitive games. They were in it to the end. You go back to the Mavericks, the year Dirk won the MVP, losing to Golden State.
That was awful.
That
was awful.
And they were the number 1 seed.
They had 67 or 68 wins.
Yeah, they were number 1 seed. Dirk won the MVP, and that was the year before they won it. But yeah, that was Heartbreak Hotel for the moment for Dirk finally arriving as a star in the NBA after all the criticism and being the MVP, the number 1 seed, and for them to lose like that was heartbreaking.
What about Clarence? There's 2 Cowboys playoff losses that popped into my head that I thought. It's not 6-0 in hockey.
Yeah, see, 6-0 is that's like a 50-0 blowout in football, right?
It was TCU Georgia in some regards. But the ones I was thinking about bad Cowboys playoff losses, There was the one under Wade Phillips at Minnesota. It was like 34-3 or 31-3, and Tony Romo was running for his life. This is like 2010 or 11.
That was the second time they made it. That's after they won their first playoff game.
Right. They beat the Eagles,
right,
and then they go to Minnesota, who had Brett Favre, and they killed them. That was a pretty bad one. And then the other one, I think it was under Chan Gailey in '98, where they hosted Arizona, and Arizona killed them. They had Jake Plummer, and they killed them. Those are the only ones. The Rangers had a couple. I mean, Game 6 of the 2011 World Series speaks for itself. That's in its own category of horrific. But in terms of blowouts and just don't show up, I've never seen anything like we saw last night.
And on a Sunday, when you had two home teams who had built momentum after dropping down 3-0 at home, it's all set up for them to really grab a hold of something, and I'm talking about the Stars who were down 3-0, won 2 games, home, the crowd is ready, the momentum is in your favor. This is a chance for you to really force a Game 7 and do something. And Boston and basketball, NBA, you had done the impossible. You rallied from a 3-0 deficit. You got a miracle shot on the road in Miami that just should have taken the heart out the heat.
Yep.
They should have won that game. And you come home to Boston. The arena, it wasn't the Garden, but it's whatever.
Still, it's Boston. Paul Pierce is sitting there. Jason Terry's sitting there. Rondo's sitting there.
You got the history of Boston and their fans, and everything is against the Heat. And then you get blown out from the jump. You don't even compete from the jump.
And you know what's weird? Like that one, I kept thinking Miami's going to win. Miami's going to win only because it is, and it's happened to the Stars, trying to win those elimination games. And Dallas won consecutive elimination games. That takes a lot out of a team. It does. And then what the Celtics were trying to do was to win 4 straight games against a good team. Winning 4 straight games is hard. Winning 4 straight games against the same team that's why it doesn't happen hardly ever. It's because it's just so hard. And, the reality is the Stars weren't better than Vegas. They weren't. And I thought if they got to Game 7, it's a win. It's a win. Vegas had the most points during the regular season, but to just not show up. And all those poor fans who spent
at home, right? You got the home crowd not to show up and not compete. Everybody has a good. It's so much excitement going in, so much anticipation for them to get the doors blown off them in the first period. It's
sad. It's pathetic. All embarrassing, humiliating. Pick your adjective. Okay, we talked forever. Texas Rangers are in first place. They're going to go to the World Series because they're going to win like 104 games. For all of your Cowboys coverage needs, especially now they're in the heart of OTAs and minicamp, make sure to follow Clarence and myself here on StarTelegram.com. Thank you, Window Nation. We will see you next week.